All right, guys, welcome back to another interview on mmaunhinged. I am joined by Matthew and Daniel Bonner. Yes, that's correct. Two people at once. An absolute pleasure, boys. Thanks so much.
Oh, no
Pleasure.
problem. No problem at all.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you both on. I mean, both of you, absolutely spectacular. You know, in your career, both of them absolutely booming. Matt going off to fight Darren Stewart, UFC veteran. Dan obviously winning that WBC belt last year, fighting obviously soon in July as well. I mean, it's the perfect time to speak to you.
It is a good time.
Yes,
It is a good time. You've caught us at a good time. So we both got these big, massive fights on the horizon. So both training hard and both ready to do the business.
Absolutely. Yeah. Before we get into this interview is sponsored by Proshmo Bets. Make sure you get your bets in with Proshmo Bets, one of the best and most accurate betting communities in the game. Check them out in the link in the description. But let's talk about what we're here to talk about, and that's Matthew and Daniel Bonner. An absolute pleasure, by the way, gentlemen. I'll start off with Matthew, and I want to talk about your coming bout. As I talked about Darren Stewart, I mean, it's a big deal. You know, Darren fought in the UFC for a very long time. You know, he's been around the best, fought some of the best. Talk to me about that moment. Fighting Darren Stewart, does it kind of feel, this is the moment I've been waiting for?
Yeah, this does feel like a big fight, and I have had big fights before, fighting for world titles and whatnot. But this, like you just mentioned, then Lenny, it's in terms of him coming from the UFC, being a UFC veteran. I think he had around 12, 13 fights in the UFC, competing there for a long time, and every kind of MMA fighter is looking to kind of get that UFC scalp on the record. We all want to beat a UFC vet, and that kind of, you'd hope that would open eyes in UFC and in the other organizations and attract even more attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And just FYI to the viewers, these are two different people. They're just twins. If you look at them, you're thinking they look a bit similar. Yes, they are twins. But yeah, just to put that out there. And as we're talking about, the fight against Darren Stewart, how do you see it playing out? I feel like what we're seeing from Darren in his last few fights is being more, strategic, more conservative. I think he's using all his arsenal, all his game to get this victory. Is that how you see Darren, coming out again on July 1st?
I'd agree with what you're saying there. I do think, when he was a younger man in the UFC, he was used a bit more of a brawling style, looking for the big finish. And I think we've seen in certainly his fight with Leon Alou, we've seen him use his wrestling a little bit more, seen him indulge in his grappling. I think that probably comes with the territory of being a little bit older now, and like you're saying, being a little bit more strategic and looking for fights where you're not going to come out the fight and be absolutely battered because you've stood there knocking lumps out of each other for 3 or 5 rounds. So yeah, it is a little bit trickier going in this fight, knowing that now he is going to use his wrestling, and that's something now I'm going to have to contend with.
Yeah, and then obviously that style that he's going to bring, how does that favour? How do you like that coming into this one?
I think it's good to know your opponent's dangerous going in. I think if you can underestimate people and maybe he's not got power, maybe he's not going to touch me. Where I know with Darren Stewart, he certainly has got the power. I know he comes from a decent gym. I know he's had all the experience of being the UFC vet, and he's certainly not going to be intimidated by me. So it's good knowing this before you go in there and not finding it out whilst you're in the cage that it's like a truck. So I'll be prepared. I'm always prepared for fights, and I'm ready to push a pace on him and win the fight.
Absolutely. We just talked about one fantastic fight with Matt, Darren Stewart, and let's talk about Daniel. You're fighting Ciarain Shanahan, a fantastic Muay Thai about, is July 8th, as we talked about, you're a week later, Matt. So, it's really good timing, You both be out there supporting each other, no doubt. But talk to me about this matchup. Ciarain, he's very young. He's very explosive, very good striking. Yeah. Talk to me about this matchup. And obviously for another belt on Combat Fight Series, talk to me about that moment as well.
I think it's kind of the same boat as Matthews at the minute. He's dangerous. It's very hard. He's very explosive. He's kind of like not the new guy on the scene, but he's got a big social media following. He's very busy on Instagram and stuff like that, which is good for me because it brings more eyes onto me then as well. So yeah, it's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to. Let's say he's dangerous. Again, what Matthew just said about Darren Stewart, I've seen him go in there and knock people out. My teammate Josh Hill fought on a show down south called Raw Combat, and that's the first time I saw Ciarain. He knocked a lad out of a left head kick, and it was weird. I was watching it. I knew we were going to fight. It was one of those things where I kind of looked at him from the back of the room and I thought, me and you we're gonna fight sooner or later. This is gonna happen. So yeah, he's a southpaw as well, which it's not harder, but it's just different. But it's definitely a fight that I'm really looking forward to. To be fair, yeah, really looking forward to that one.
And I'd love to ask you, when you did go down to see him and you saw him in person, you saw him fight. What goes through your head when you were watching him fight? What do you think he does well when you were watching it? And
I
you
think,
think, maybe, as you talked about, you said you were going to fight one day, and here we
yeah,
are. So, what did you think
yeah,
he did
yeah.
well that night?
I think he's just he hits very hard, and he's very confident. Do you know what I mean? I can imagine he lives for these kind of moments where he's fighting for world titles. He's just coming off a back. I don't know if it was a WBC British title or WBC English title that he's just come away with and he just won that. So he's going to be, really confident. He's got a bit of momentum behind him. Funnily enough, his last fight, it might have been his last fight or the one before that, he fought the guy who I've just beat, and he stopped him with cuts in the second round, and I've just gone to a decision with this guy. So we've kind of got we both fought the same guy as well. So it's very interesting. I think he's really good. Again, I'm going back to what Matthew said again. Those fights where you go in and you're kind of a bit overconfident, you think you're going to get an easy fight. They're the ones that catch you out. So for me to go in and he's dangerous, he hits hard. It's going to be a dangerous fight. They're the ones I go in, and they're the ones that I usually put on my best performances on those kind of fights.
Absolutely, as you talked about, it's a fantastic fight. I'm looking for. I think stylistically, it's going to bring the best out of both of you. You talked about you're number one in the UK, WBC international champion. That's big.
Yeah.
I know. We've seen WBC. It's huge over boxing. Came over to kickboxing. It's still very big. It's still a historical belt. What does that mean? Are you looking to keep holding that for as long as possible, basically?
Well, funnily enough, I've been stripped of it now because I didn't defend it within a year. You lose the belt, so I've been stripped of it. So I never lost to an opponent, but because I never got the opportunity to defend it within a year, I have been stripped of it through no fault of my own. That's the rules in the WC. If you don't defend it within a year, you'll lose it. But yeah, at the time, that's still my biggest achievement, being UK number one and being WBC international champion. That's definitely up there, considering. I don't know if I tore my bicep pretty early on in that fight as well. About halfway through the first round, I tore my bicep, and I was fighting James Ogden, who'd beat me previously as well, and he'd beat me pretty well. He hurt me a few times, so to come away and kind of avenge that loss and injure myself, but still come up with a good performance like that, that's still like a career highlight for me. Yeah.
Matt, what would you make of his assessment on that fight?
I think it's a good assessment. I think that the kid he's against, he's dangerous. And I think it's what Dan said. I think that's when it brings out the best performance in you. I think that's been common with both of us, even in the gym. Is like for me, for instance, if I roll with a black belt, I grapple a lot better against a black belt than I might against a blue belt or a purple belt. These tough fights, these tough opponents bring out that little bit of character and bring out that bit of competition, and you train like a madman for these fights. These are the career-defining moments. You either kind of make it or break it.
And then Dan, the same question, obviously regarding the assessment of obviously Matt facing Darren Stewart. What do you think about that matchup?
Same again, very dangerous guy. Hits very hard. Like I say, he started to kind of really late in his career, bringing in that wrestling and grappling side as well. Now it seems to improve there. But he's more than Matthew's more than ready. He's an ex-Cage Warriors world champion. Do you know what I mean? He's been there and kind of done it. Apart from like to go to the UFC or one of the other organisations, this isn't his first. The first time he's been on these big occasions. So he's more than ready. He's at. I go watch him sparring at Next Gen and stuff. So I know how good he is. He knows how good he is. I think he's a good fight for him, and 100% believe he's going to go in there and put on a career best performance. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I'd love to talk about Next Gen. Obviously, a lot of questions. Paul Rimmer, fantastic coach. Obviously, everyone at Next Gen, fantastic. But I want to talk about the last few questions about the fight itself. Matt, first, ultimately, what's going to be the difference on fight day for you to get your hand raised and you obviously beat Darren Stewart?
I think it's a case for Darren Stewart. I think this is a case for a lot of guys who have gone to the UFC, have gone to those big shows, and then, unfortunately, come back to the European promotions. Cage Warriors is a European promotion; it's not regional. I think he might have lost that little bit of hunger. He's not going to get as paid as much as he was in the UFC. It's not as prominent in terms of sponsorship and attention wise. And I do think he's probably is on the back end of his career. I did hear a while ago, well before I was even matched up against him, that he was going to go into some kind of celebrity boxing or something like that at one point. So you do wonder if the desire is still there for him. Is he bothered about winning a Cage Warriors title? Is he interested in going back to the UFC? I'm not sure, but I know I am. I've just had a baby. I'm looking for these big fights. I'm looking for more money. I'm looking to move to the UFC or another suitable promotion where I'm going to get paid, hopefully a handsome amount of money. So there's more desire, I would say, looking in from my side than there is from Darren Stewart's side.
Absolutely fantastic, phenomenal. And Dan, obviously, the same question to you, if you don't mind. Obviously, about the the Ciarain matchup. What's the difference? What's going to be that that defining factor, obviously, to get get your hand raised?
I just think my attitude has completely changed. I'm not, scared to have the conversation where I had a fight in February again for the Muay Thai Grand Prix World title, and I got knocked out, like badly knocked out. As in, I didn't have a concussion, but he put me to sleep, and I kind of, looking back, I didn't think I did, but I went in there with that bit of an ego, to be fair. I did have a bit of I'm Dan Bonner, I'm top 5 in the world, UK number 1, blah, blah, blah. And I think that was the death of me, really, in that fight. But that's not part of my... I have no ego anymore. That's not part of my makeup anymore. So I think I've got in there with a great attitude. And even when I win now, I say this to Matthew all the time, is even when you win, you've got to go away and add something to your camps as well. You've still got... It's easy to win and go, well, that worked really well, so let's do the exact same again, and the exact same is going to happen and going to win, but that's not always the case. Even when you win, I think it's important to go away and you break down the fight and what went right, what went wrong, and add the bits to your camp that need addressing, really. And that's what I'm doing now. Is next week, I'm not going to tell you just in case Ciarain's listening now, but I'm adding new things and I'm training under, new coaches and I'm just adding in little bits. I think that those little bits at this high level is those 1%, 2%. They're massive in the end. They can be the difference. They can be the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep them secrets to yourself. You don't know who's listening these days.
That's it, yeah.
But we'll move on. As I talked about, you had some fantastic accomplishments both in your career. You can look behind me. This shoulder here, we got Dan Bonner obviously winning that WBC championship, and this shoulder here, we got obviously Matt Bonner winning that Cage Warriors middleweight championship. And I'd love to, ask you about the emotions, both winning them belts. What does that mean when you get that belt wrapped around your shoulder? You get it wrapped. Do you have that sense of maybe relief that maybe I've done it? We'll start off with Dan, and then we'll move on to Matt.
I think, yeah, it's definitely that relief, really, is that it's not been for a waste of time. It's weird, really. It's a bit... You spend your life working towards these belts and winning these belts, and then you win one, and give it 2 weeks and you're not that bothered. It's weird, but I think it's one of those things that when you finished your career and it's a bit cringy and that, but you sit there with your grandkids, that's the time when you'll probably appreciate it more then, is where you get to show them the pictures and you can get your belts out, whatever. I think that's when... Because you win a belt and then within 2 weeks you think, oh, I'll win another one now. And then you'll win that one. You think, oh, well, there's always another goal. It never... Before you know it, you don't want to be a world champion. You want to be a 2-time world champion, or you want to get to the UFC. You don't want... Being a Cage Warriors world champion doesn't mean as much now because you want to get to the UFC. So I think it's definitely going to be one of those things where when you have retired, you do appreciate it a bit more then.
And then moving over to obviously Matt winning that Cage Warriors middleweight championship. Big thing, as you talked about. Cage Warriors, very regional, but still it's very big now in the European scene. So yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, I think when you said the word relief, that kind of rings a bell with me. I always said I'd love to be the guy who won that world title and was crying in the middle of the cage and saying, "This is the best moment of my life," and this and this. But it wasn't. It was a relief. It was like, thank God, if it all goes wrong from here on, I've still took something solid out the sport. I would still be happy if I blew my knee out tomorrow and couldn't compete again, or broke me back or whatever. I could still be satisfied with my career. So it released the right word, and I think it is important. It's so cliche, but it is the journey that matters. It's not that kind of world title or whatever. That's nice and it looks good for the profile picture on your Instagram, but it is the journey. It's the getting better. It's the challenge. It's meeting people and experiencing things. And I always say we're in a really privileged position as fighters where I think most people in their life have maybe 2 or 3 defining moments, whether that's having kids or getting married or jumping out of a plane. But we get to have life-defining moments 3-4 times a year for as long as our career manages to last for. So I do try and enjoy it as much as I can because obviously, unfortunately, fighting can't last forever. 32 years old now. I'd like to think I have another maybe 4 or 5 years left in me, but after that, I'd imagine I'd have to move up, move into coaching or do something else. And I think we will miss getting up in the morning, having that goal of smashing someone up in a ring or a cage. So relief and satisfaction. But I think Dan's right. I think it's something maybe you look back on and appreciate more so than when you live in the moment.
Absolutely, and I'd love to talk about what's next on the horizon for the middleweight championship, the Cage Warriors middleweight championship, and that is obviously James and Mick. They're fighting for the belt. I want to get your kind of thoughts on that. I want to pick your brains a little bit on that matchup. What do you think about it?
I think it's shite. That's what I think. I think it's a load of shite. I think I should have probably fought Will Curry for the belt, and then obviously they got Stanton in there. And then Stanton won, and I thought, right, okay, it'll be me now. Beat James, batter James, beat Mick a long time ago, and I thought that'll add a little bit of drama, that'll add a little bit of spice to it. Mick's always been after that fight again. He's always wanted to, try and get that win back. So I thought, I'm on for this. I'm on for the belt, and then obviously it was James who got the opportunity. So I was disappointed. I do actually think this Darren Stewart fight, in the grand scheme of things, feels to me like a bigger fight because of the UFC vet and whatnot. But I would have liked to have won the belt again. And there is certain perks to being a champion. You get a little bit more money for sponsorships and stuff like that. It's easy to attract sponsors and whatnot. And you do get a little bit more of media attention and social media attention. So it is disappointing, but that was Cage Warriors' decision. And I just have to put up and shut up and win my next fight.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with you here as well. I thought it was a bit surprising that they were fighting. Obviously, as you talked about, they made the Will versus Mick, and I was like, all right, okay, fair enough. Will, he's a prospect, he's coming through. He's doing a little bit, good things. He's a good run. And then they obviously made the James weight, and I was like, he's on a 1-fight winning streak. I was like, you've got you in the division. I was like, maybe there could have been a better matchup. Obviously, no disrespect or anything. No, obviously respect to them. I think they're fantastic. But I just thought maybe there could have been better matchmaking there for yourself versus Mick. History's there. You're on a win streak. But then again, an opportunity goes down, another one opens, and now you've got that Darren Stewart fight. So I say it's a win-win.
Yeah, I think so. And I think James, if he does anything, I think James might win that fight. But I think if anything, James does sell a lot of tickets, and that does make a difference. Obviously, promoters want to sell out the show. So maybe that came into it. But I was a little bit surprised. Like you mentioned, and I like James. I've not got nothing against James at all. I've got nothing against any of them. But he has on that 1-fight win streak against a guy who was very fresh into his pro career. I've stopped, and he went the full 3 rounds. I knocked out Alan Carlos, and then I went on to batter Cadena in a round. Finished him, and I thought that would have just again. I do think you could have really made a bit of a drama around me and Mick fighting and build it into an interesting fight. But again, it is what it is, and I've not got any answers to why I wasn't. I wasn't in the fight, but I've got this Darren Stewart fight now, and it's important that I focus on that and really win that. I've got not bothered about what comes after the Darren Stewart fight in terms of title implications. I really do want to focus on this fight because I do think he's very dangerous and probably my toughest test today.
Absolutely agree. Fantastic fight. I'm looking forward to it. And Dan, I apologize, sorry, to keep you waiting in the wings. Silent. So let's talk to you. Let's talk about, obviously, you're training out Majestic out in Wigan, and obviously Matt over there in Next Gen MMA, Liverpool. First, Dan, fantastic coaching over there in Majestic. So you talked about new coaching. Talk to me about that, a little bit about that, and obviously about the atmosphere in the gym.
Oh, it's just, I think we just missed out on Gym of the Year last year. I think the Knowsley Academy with John Haggerty and Liam Nolan just pinched off at the end. But the kind of, even last week, I fought last Saturday, I won last Saturday. I main evented the show. I think we had something like 10 on, and we had 9 wins. No, we had 11 on. We had 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. So, the atmosphere in the gym's unbelievable at the minute. Everyone's in, and every class is busy, and I'm going to start working with Josh Hill's unbelievable. He's an unbelievable talent. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to start working with him next week. I've got a 1-to-1 with Josh tomorrow. He's a teammate, but I think he's like 23, 24, but he's pretty much done it all. He's lived in Thailand. He's fought in Thailand. He's on 1 FC at the minute. He's just coming over off a really good stoppage over Satan Fire, who's an absolutely fantastic Thai. So he's just coming off a win like that. Again, Kev, my head coach, Kev, he was supposed to corner me last Saturday, but his missus went into labour. But there was no drama because we knew we had Josh and Ben and Matthew jumped in the corner and my boxing coach Scotty there. So, it's not make or break if Kev's not there. Obviously, we want him there. He's our head coach. He lives for the sport. He knows the ins and outs of it. If Kev won the lottery tomorrow, he'd still turn up at Majestic the next day. Do you know what I mean? He just loves the sport. So. But it's nice to see if Kev's not there, then Josh is there to handle the reins, or Ben, or we've got so many good fighters out there now. And I think it's only a matter of time before I'm world champion, and we've got some great lads coming up through the ranks as well, like through your B class and your pro-am ranks as well. It's just heavy at the minute. It's just there's so much talent coming out there. Some good girls as well. There's some good girls in Majestic now. So yeah, from the juniors to the women to lads like me at A class and Josh and Ryan, the talent is unbelievable at the minute. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you talked about your teammate there fighting in one championship. Obviously, fantastic promotion. It's huge over there. I mean, Muay Thai over in one championship is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is that where you would like to see or envision your future as well? Is that something that maybe you like? Yeah. I mean, I would say that would be the main staple of Muay Thai at the moment. One championship over there in Thailand. So would that be something that you'd love to tick off the list?
Yeah, 100%. That's where the money is. Basically, that's where the most money, where people are getting paid with the bonuses as well. And you've got your Friday night shows at Lumpini Stadium as well. Then you've got your main events on, on usually there's one every month now on the Saturday. And Muay Thai and MMA gloves, I don't think there's much things more, jam-packed, action-packed than that. I'd love to fight. Obviously, seeing Matthew doing it, I'd love to fight with MMA gloves on Muay Thai. I think that's crazy. And like I said, yes, that's unbelievable. It's so exciting. Do you know what I mean? Some of those Friday shows and some of those Saturday shows, it's the best entertainment you're going to see in anywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's so good. So yeah, that's the thing is they want world champions, and I've kind of like here and there they'd have me, but I need to win a world title first. So again, this in 5 weeks would be the perfect chance for me to go in and nick a world title, and hopefully get on ONE FC. That would be the next step. Yeah.
Spectacular. Over there, they're honestly phenomenal. They're crazy about fighting, especially Muay Thai, kickboxing, all that. And if you look at their roster, it's built and just stacked of, as we talked about, Muay Thai, kickboxing world champions. So fantastic.
Yeah. Crazy roster. Yeah, crazy roster. Like I say, even the kickboxers, it's got the best kickboxers in the world. Glory was always the place to go for kickboxing, but I would say ONE FC now, even for kickboxing, definitely for Muay Thai, is the most talent in the roster, 100%.
Absolutely agree. They're doing some spectacular things that he talked about. I love that little Muay Thai fights, as you talked about the Friday fights in the arena, in a ring. I like how they, transition through an octagon in a ring. It just gives that different elements to, different fights. And obviously the Muay Thai gloves, MMA gloves in a Muay Thai bout. That's just brings that extra feeling to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like a different sport. It just changes it. The stuff you'd get away with the big gloves on, you cannot get away with it. Do you know what I mean? You take head kicks on the glove, on those little MMA gloves, they still hurt. Do you know what I mean? The clinch is easier, the elbows sneak through that bit easier. Obviously, the punches sneak through. It's the same sport but different. It's just a different vibe, yeah.
Absolutely fantastic, phenomenal. And then moving over to Matthew. Obviously, Dan just talked about there against Majestic and Wigan. Obviously, we talked about next generation MMA in Liverpool. We know who's there. There's no point me actually talking about who's there, whoever's there, all the coaches. Just talk to me about the atmosphere and obviously how good is that gym?
It is very good. I've always said I kind of went to Next Gen quite late in my career. I had a few losses and I was essentially training myself, being silly and naive and daft. And then I took the step to go to Next Gen, and that was where my career lifted off. And that was the best decision I made fighting wise in my career. But there is an abundance of talent on the mats. We've got the Paddies and the Mollies and whatnot, who everybody knows, but then we've got the guys coming up, the Cage Warriors guys, and now we've got guys on Octagon, and we've got people going to Bellator and whatnot as well. So we're kind of spreading our roots to all these other organisations, which I think is a great idea. Everybody's got their own little style in the gym. I think you find, especially in MMA gyms, sometimes everyone's got this same style. I know when I fought a few lads from SBG, Matt Inman and Joe Smith, it's kind of almost like fighting the same person. I don't think that's a good thing, where everyone in next gen has got a different style, strengths and weaknesses in different areas, and again a really friendly team as well, and everyone's game for a good scrap in the sparring. So got a solid team, and again, everyone knows who next gen are. I think they are probably the premier gym in Liverpool now, and one of the best gyms in Europe.
Absolutely, we've got some fantastic gyms in Liverpool. I mean, Liverpool scene in MMA is booming. We've got some fantastic, obviously, Conan Lochran, Team Cabon, getting that World Championship in Cage Warriors as well. So I know it's fantastic over there in Liverpool. You got some Adam Cullen as well. I know he's come back off his first pro loss, but he's a fantastic prospect. He'll be back. Luke Riley. Oh my goodness, your gym is full, man.
Yeah, it is, and we've got guys, people don't even know about. We've got them in the wings, just ready to explode on the scene. Like I say, Luke Riley, Nate Fletcher, Adam Cullen. Nate Fletcher must be on for his world title shot next. And I say, people who maybe are just starting the amateur career, and you think, Christ, in 2 or 3 years you're going to be really scary. So yeah, it's nice to see that there's different levels. You got the guys in the UFC, and you got the guys in Cage Warriors who are almost on the, almost in going into the UFC. Then you still got the kids in the domestic scenes who are going to be following us up a little bit later on in their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Nathan Fletcher getting that shot against Conan next, if Conan doesn't move on to the UFC or Contender Series or whatever he wants to do next in his career. But this next segment is Smesh Sports Bag segment, and he wanted to ask a question, and he said, in a hypothetical situation, if one of you had to fall unwell on a fight day and either of you had to step in, which twin would fare better in Muay Thai or MMA? I'll let you discuss.
Go on.
Well, I think we're probably the same on this. I think I'd probably do better in Thai boxing than Dan would do in MMA. I think there's so many intricacies with MMA, with the wrestling and the grappling, jiu-jitsu and whatnot. I couldn't fight at Dan's level in Thai boxing. I just couldn't. Even when I spar him, he kicks me about the gym. But I think I could almost kind of look like a Thai boxer for 5 3-minute rounds. Maybe a bad one, but I could look like one where I think Dan would get exposed pretty good. But saying that, Dan was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, so and he's strong as hell. So maybe he's got a different opinion than me.
No, I agree. To be fair, if you take me down, I'm a dead man. Yeah, it's over. I'm still now. I remember it's been about a year ago where I was like, I'd still last, 2 minutes against you, and I think he choked me out about 3 times in about 60 seconds. Yeah, so no, I agree. He'd do better than me at Muay Thai than I would at MMA. Yeah.
Yeah, and you did have an amateur career, didn't you, Dan? In MMA.
It wasn't brilliant, to be fair. There's nothing to write home about. I think it's like 4 wins, 4 losses or something. I think I lost by first round submission about 3 times. And to be fair, I enjoyed it. I did actually enjoy the MMA, but it was putting it all together for me. If it was just stand-up, fine. If it was just like the wrestling on its own, it was fine. But you put all that together, and I'm not clever enough for that. I just punch in the face. Yeah.
That's fantastic, and I think that really does what you said there. Putting it all together, it just really shows how, as you talked about, how intelligent these MMA fighters are. Matthew, for example, I mean, we got some fantastic. How they switch up. 1 minute they're kickboxing, 1 minute they're wrestling, 1 minute they want to grapple, 1 minute they're looking for a red naked choke, 1 minute they go for an armbar. It's like whoa, slow down a minute.
Yeah. That's why it's so exciting, isn't it, really? Because if you are getting beat on the stand-up, then you have got that kind of availability to take it down and change the direction of fight, where you don't have that in Muay Thai, really. You know what I mean? You can clinch and you can elbow and stuff, but it's all on the feet where, I think there's levels to it. And I always kind of say if you're an MMA fight, you're kind of like good at everything. You've got to be like a builder who can do the plumbing and the electricity and the foundations, all that stuff. Where, do you know what I mean? You've got to be able to do everything really well. And in Muay Thai, it's different. You've just got to do you got to be like a master craftsman in Muay Thai. But if someone takes me down within 30 seconds, Matthew would prove it. I'm a dead man. Yeah, I'm dead. Yeah.
I love it. That's absolutely phenomenal. And my last few questions, as being twins, I wanted to ask you about some of the growing up stories. I know you both wanted to be fighters when you were growing up, and you've both been fighting together. I want to talk about them, them gym stories. Was there any, is there any stories that you've got to tell that might get a chuckle from the viewers from growing up as kids, teenagers, fighting each other in the gym? I know there's a few. Daniel's smiling, Matthew's smiling. There's got to be one.
There's one that sticks out, I think, and I think when me and Dan are from Warrington, we were born in Warrington, but when we finished high school, we moved to Wales to do a joinery apprenticeship with our then stepdad at the time. So we were training together, living together, working together, and I think we were kind of very sick to death of each other at that point, and also kind of hormonal teenagers at the same time. It's not a good mix. So we there was a time when Dan, I think I hit Dan. I don't know if whatever he'd done something, I hit him. Then he turned around and thought, "Oh shit, he's gonna hit me back here, so I best run away." And as I've run away, he's punched me in the back of the head and just broke his hand, broke his pinky on his left hand or right hand or whatever it was. But oh Christ, he's just broke his hand. And then I think it was literally the week after we had the same scuffle. He's gone, right, I broke this hand, so I'm going to hit him with the other one. And then he's broke that one as well. So he's in the kind of the space of 10 days, he broke two hands, in the same kind of circumstance. So, I mean, apart from that, we were quite, I don't think we were that competitive against each other. Even obviously today, we really want to see each other succeed. But that's really the only one time I can think of us actually scrapping and, and kind of coming out a little bit damaged on the end of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Dan, what did he do to piss you off? How's your hands now?
It's fine now, to be fair. Yeah, I never had to have an operation or anything like that, but I can't even remember that. It was that long ago. It'd have been something stupid. He'd have called me a name. Matthew, he can give it, he can't take it. So he'd have called me something. I'd have called him something back and he'd have whacked me, he'd have walloped me, do you know what I mean? He's always the first one. So yeah, I'd have counted back and two broken hands. And I was gonna say we were joiners at the time, so you kind of need your hands, don't you, when you're a joiner? So I think I was out of work for a couple of weeks. Yeah.
And then my last question, as we talked about growing up, both wanting to fight, both training. Did it make things easier, training, because you're pushing yourself, and as we talked about that competitive spirit, twins are going to want to be better than each other. So did it make things easier, growing up, training, pushing each other, because you want to do what sort of the similar career paths?
I think it definitely did initially when we, again, Dan's a Thai boxer, but we initially both went all to MMA after Thai boxing. And the idea was we both were going to become MMA fighters. But like I say, we were living in Wales at the time, and there was no, this is 2010 maybe. There isn't any jiu-jitsu gyms around. It just wasn't the case. Certainly not in North Wales. So for us both to be able to, I mean, I remember buying, it was a book on Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So all me and Dan used to do was go down to the shed in the back garden and practice this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And even out of this book now, there's still so many things that I do that are in my game from this book. So I think the ideal thing about having a twin is you've always got that training partner there who's essentially going to be your training dummy for the day. Where maybe as a Thai boxer you can kick a bag and you can shadow box, but in Jiu-Jitsu you need somebody there to be able to move around and someone to put a little bit of weight through you. And it's a little bit trickier. Obviously, in wrestling, you need someone to be able to double leg. You can't really shadow box a double leg. So I certainly think having a twin there was massively productive with that. Like I say, in terms of competition-wise, in terms of sparring and stuff, I can't really remember too much if we were both knocking lumps out of each other. It just wasn't very competitive. We both was focused on us both getting as good as we could possibly get.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I appreciate your time, boys. As I talked about, it's hard to get one person's time, but two, that's surreal. That's phenomenal. So thank you very much, Matt and Dan. An absolute pleasure. I wish you the best of luck. Obviously, Matt fighting Darren Stewart on July 1st, sorry. And obviously Dan fighting Ciarain Shanahan on July 8th. Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, see, now I'm all getting mixed up, but yeah, you kind of got the gist.
You did well. You did well. You've only screwed it up at the end, don't worry.
But I appreciate your time, Bo. Honestly, an absolute pleasure. Have a good rest of your day, and I hope I'll catch you soon.
Cheers, Lonnie. Thank you, mate.